Good afternoon and welcome to the release of our Center for Competitive Workforce report on LA's middle skill occupations through the lens of race and ethnicity. My name is Stephen Chung. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this very important conversation. This report was created through the partnership between the 19 community colleges in the Los Angeles region, the LAOC Center for Excellence for Labor Market Research, and the LA County Economic Development Corporation. This report could not come at a better or more important time as we're continuing to struggle with the devastating impact of the pandemic. At the LAEDC, we strive to build and reimagine Los Angeles' regional economy that is growing, equitable, sustainable, and resilient. An economy that provides a healthy and high standard of living for all. And that is why the work we do with the Center for Competitive Workforce is so vital to the future of the Los Angeles economy. The CCW continues to transform the way our community colleges focus on preparing talent. It is a transformational model and is working very effectively. The engagement we're driving between employers, faculty, and students is delivering better outcomes because it aligns talent development with a rapidly changing economy at a time when focused workforce upskilling is vital. All the participants, industry leaders, and the colleges and students themselves are thrilled with engagement that is helping them make progress, develop relationships, improve college programs, and find well-paying careers. This is the final funded report from the CCW and is one of the most thought-provoking of all because it provides objective data on how people of color in the Los Angeles Basin are faring in the economy, with wage comparisons in various industries, analysis of inequities in the workforce, analysis of how workers of different race and ethnicities are segregated into our economy by occupations and skills. And with this report, we're moving the conversation forward to not only illuminate these issues, but provide recommendations to help address diversity and inclusivity in our economy, specifically in the 11 well-paying occupations where there's opportunity for the workforce to better represent our region's diversity. The goal of the report is to measurably improve economic mobility for people of color in Los Angeles County. And this report will inform meaningful conversations as we work collaboratively to create more widely shared prosperity. With that said, there's a great program in front of us with a lot of great speakers and a lot of great content. So we're delighted you're able to join us today. Thank you for joining us. At this point, I would like to introduce the Executive Director at the Center for Competitive Workforce, Mr. Richard Vergess. Richard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Stephen. It really is a celebration. As Stephen indicated, a celebration of perhaps what appears to be our last funded report from CCW in partnership with LAEDC and its Institute for Applied Economics and the LAOC Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research that's hosted at Mount SAC. And you'll hear from them shortly. But I have the pleasure of both welcoming you and sharing a bit with you about what has been an extraordinary 5 years. And we are so pleased that the partnership between the 19 LA area community colleges and LAEDC has resulted in so many tremendous partnerships with employers, with the colleges, faculty, and especially this year with students. It's a celebration of an exceptional year of unprecedented engagement with employers led by the team at LAEDC. CCW is led by an advisory council, deans of the community colleges. Today is the culmination of 5 years. As you could see here, almost 20 industry sector reports that have been produced in partnership with the Center of Excellence and LAEDC's Institute for Applied Economics that have touched on all of our leading industry sectors to ensure that colleges have their finger on the pulse of the economy, to ensure that employers know all of the great talent and training that occurs at community colleges and what the value of the partnership with community colleges represents for employers to ensure that there's equity, diversity, and opportunities for so many who we cannot afford to leave behind. I was moved just before we started this session in seeing a post from Compton College that recognized the 48 high school students that are going to receive their community college degrees even before their high school degrees, over 88 Associate of Arts degrees, certificates, and other educational achievements. And it really represents the power of community colleges to serve both students for early opportunities and for older advanced workers for opportunities to both reconnect to the economies, to upskill, and to grow. And all of these reports represent the sectors that we have touched, that we have connected, and that LAEDC is driving the work on behalf of the colleges. As you can see, this is just a small sample of the work that LAEDC has led with 3 industry councils and an example of the employers that we have connected with and that we have connected to colleges and that we have connected to faculty and who have hosted faculty and who have created opportunities for students. This last year, for the 3rd year, have engaged employers to support faculty with regional program advisories to ensure that instead of 19 separate meetings to support faculty at colleges, we can have collective meetings of faculty of multiple colleges with leading employers to ensure that we're all hearing the same message at the same time and sharing both strategies and sharing ideas that are occurring at the colleges and the programs that are occurring that are hosted at the colleges, but also hearing from employers about their needs for talent, their expectations about what the post-pandemic workplace will be and what their expectations are for talent and for skills. These conversations are invaluable to the colleges. These partnerships, we believe, are invaluable to employers, and we want to ensure that employers know that there is local talent, and we appreciate partnerships that LAEDC has developed with the community colleges. While we have funding to support work through the next semester, we're not sure whether the Center for Competitive Workforce will continue beyond December. So we look forward to sharing the findings from this latest and greatest report. So Claire, I'll turn it over to you to share more of our highlights.
Thank you, Richard, for that introduction and for highlighting so much of our work this year. There will be time at the end for you to also consider ways that you can get involved. And that's sort of one of the reasons why we're highlighting some of this work, because there'll be a significant section on our recommendations based on the findings from this report. And so we did just want to highlight for you some of that work, and hopefully you're envisioning all the ways that you can get involved in it as well. Richard did mention some of our more student-facing work, which was a new addition this past year. We engaged with over 1,000 students across all the 19 community colleges that participate in CCW on a wide range of subjects, and really just ensuring that all this information gets to the faculty, but also to the students who can then utilize that as well. And lastly, we just wanted to thank all of our employer partners. I know some of them are on the line here today. We had almost 50 employers engaged directly with students and faculty to really help us with that employer engagement component of that. And so all of our work is based on these economic reports, but it wouldn't be possible without the support of obviously all of the industry folks here as well. Without further ado, I am going to pass it on to Shannon Sedgwick, who is the LAEDC Institute for Applied Economics Director, and I'll let her take it from here.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you again for joining us here today. As Claire said, I'm Shannon Sedgwick, and I'm the director of the LAEDC Institute for Applied Economics, and we do all of the research at the LAEDC. Today, I'm going to share with you the findings from our latest report looking at middle-skilled jobs in the Los Angeles Basin through the lens of race and ethnicity. First, some key findings. We can see clear differences in earnings, educational attainment, occupations, and industries between demographic groups in the Los Angeles Basin, which was a driving force behind making this our topic of focus. These disparities have only been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which affected certain groups more heavily than others based on which sectors of the economy these different groups were employed in. Finally, we do see some positives in the future. The growth of the professional and business services sector in the basin will create high numbers of middle skill opportunities for the region's workers in the future. Based on skills classifications, we've estimated the proportion of workers within the 4 largest racial and ethnic groups employed in occupations at each skill level, White and Asian workers have much higher concentrations in middle and above middle skill occupations, while Hispanic and Black workers are more concentrated in lower skilled occupations. We can see the effects of these disparities clearly in census data. There's a distinct difference in the median household incomes of each group. White and Asian households in the basin on average make far more than Hispanic and Black households. And this also correlates with educational attainment levels. Data shows that minority workers often have just a high school diploma or sometimes less, while over half of the white and Asian population above 25 years of age have a bachelor's degree. The COVID-19 pandemic widened the divide, as the majority of those filing for unemployment had just a high school education or some college experience, while workers with a bachelor's degree or higher were less affected. So from these data points, we can start to see the inequity that is present in our region and how different demographic groups have been impacted. For this report, we wanted to focus on connecting workers from minority groups into sectors that could benefit from more diversity and had an abundance of middle skill opportunities to take advantage of. We chose three main industry sectors: construction, healthcare, and professional and business services. Overall, these equitable recovery target sectors account for about a third of regional employment, with the breakdown of the component industries across these three sectors displayed here. Professional and technical services and administrative and support services account for almost half of these jobs alone. Meanwhile, the substantial healthcare sector in the Los Angeles Basin provides nearly 600,000 jobs, and construction follows with 170,000 workers employed in specialty trade contracting alone. All three of these target sectors have seen employment growth over the past decade in the LA Basin, above the average all industry total. Construction in particular has been a standout with over 34% growth over the preceding decade, while healthcare nearly reached 30%. And between 2009 and 2019, professional and business services added over 195,000 jobs. All in all, there were 394,000 new workers added to these three equitable recovery target sectors across the period. These target sectors pay competitive wages as well. Professional and business services employees average over $100,000 annually across that sector, though this number is likely raised by wages in management occupations. And the construction sector pays above the average wage in the basin as well. In both professional and business services and construction, real wages have grown by 11% over the past decade. Real wage growth in the healthcare sector has been slower, with just 1.4% growth over the decade, with home health care and residential care pulling down average wage slightly below the all-industry regional average. Our forecast shows the strongest job growth across the equitable recovery target sectors between 2019 and 2024 will be in professional and business services, but all three sectors will be adding jobs consistently. Overall, we project over 175,000 new jobs across this 5-year span. Many of the occupations within these industries also have high replacement rates due to exits and job transfers. And including these additional opportunities, this employment churn, we project over 634,000 job openings across the three sectors overall by 2024. Let's drill down a little further and see what occupations are in demand. About 44% of the projected job openings in these target sectors are middle skill, making them great targets for community college graduates with the proper training and qualifications. When we look at job postings data in the Los Angeles Basin, which represents real-time employer demand, we see the middle skill occupations with the highest demand in our pre-pandemic baseline. of 2019, they include registered nurses and sales representatives. And we also see strong demand for computer occupations like web developers and systems engineers. We identified 11 target occupations within the 3 equitable recovery sectors that have strong job prospects for community college graduates and that show potential for increased diversity. They all have bright job outlooks and career pathways that lead higher up in their respective industries, where workers can earn better wages and gain more job security and financial stability throughout their careers. We can see that all 11 of these occupations are highlighted for growth throughout 2024. Paralegals and legal assistants are expected to grow by more than 14%, while construction and building inspectors also have strong growth potential. Our largest occupational group is secretaries and administrative assistants with over 77,000 jobs, and this occupation is expected to grow by 4.5% over a 5-year period. We also look at trends in technology so that our workers of today can best be prepared to use and work alongside the tools and technology to perform their everyday responsibilities moving forward. In construction, technology is improving safety and efficiency. Wearables allow managers to oversee their job sites more effectively and monitor the crew, while drones and robots are starting to take a bigger role in performing difficult or more unsafe jobs. In professional and business services, artificial intelligence and machine learning are helping firms analyze data at a new level and provide more detailed insights for clients. Meanwhile, the healthcare sector has rapidly adopted telehealth during the pandemic, allowing care providers to stay connected with their patients from a distance. And new cutting-edge technology will allow for even greater advances in medical science on the horizon. With all that we learned while researching this topic, we outlined several key recommendations for activating the research put forth in this report. We must provide increased engagement and guidance and mentorship surrounding our target industries and occupations to help individuals overcome potential barriers and guide students from all races and ethnicities towards strong career pathways. Investing in partnerships with employers that promote diversity is also important during this economic recovery process, as is more detailed tracking of student employment outcomes to better understand student earnings, the inequities in the region. Finally, joining with the Center for Competitive Workforce and utilizing their broad network of support and correspondence to increase awareness and help employers and local community colleges tune their offerings properly, that will be critical as well. So this concludes the brief overview of the report, including the demand side analysis. And up next, Luke Meyer will be sharing the community college supply side portion of the report. Thank you for all your time today.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I just wanted to explain a little bit about what we do at the Center of Excellence for Labor Market Research. We provide labor market information to our colleges to help with investing in new and relevant programs, pursuing grants, and assessing the supply and demand of the labor market. So we do an analysis where we compare the number of job openings for a particular occupation and then the number of completions for programs related to that occupation to try to achieve equilibrium in the labor market, and also identify those opportunities for our students that are high wage and in growing areas. But before I do, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to our 19 colleges in LA and 9 in Orange County for the work that they do and will continue to do for our students. So the ones that get them in the door, teach them the skills to get the jobs identified in some of these reports and more. So without further ado, let's dive into the data. And I want to say that the data in the supply side section, we're going to be looking at career education programs in the LA Basin. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into a sector level, and then we'll dive even deeper into specific programs related to the occupations that Shannon mentioned. And as we do, we will look at those things through the lens of race and ethnicity. So we are looking at the students in the LA Basin, which comprise about 35% of all career education students in the community college system throughout the state. As you can see, the demographic profile of our students is fairly comparable to that of the state as a whole, with a slightly larger portion of students identifying as Hispanic and a smaller portion of students identifying as white. Now, that's all career education programs. Now, here's an idea of our sector look. So the programs at the community colleges are organized into sectors which largely reflect those in industry. And that's how we cluster our programs. So there are 12 that you can see on the left, starting with information communication technologies and digital media, all the way down to life sciences and biotechnology. So we have the number of students enrolled in blue in each sector, and then the number of awards issued from each sector in red. So we can see the largest sectors in terms of student enrollment are ICT, digital media, and business and entrepreneurship. And the largest in terms of awards is the business and entrepreneurship sector, which has issued more than 2 times the amount of the next sector, next largest in terms of awards, which is the health sector. Overall, again, we're looking at just over 350,000 career ed students, and there were 43,000 and a half, just close to 44,000 awards issued across all of these sectors. Some of the student employment outcomes that we can look at on our launch board dashboard are median annual earnings, and we can disaggregate this data by sector. So the average earnings for students across all sectors is just over $33,000 per year. And for reference, the living wage in LA County is $15.04 per hour, or just under $32,000 per hour. So on average, our students are earning a living wage. That continues to rise, so we will need to keep up with the times on that. But this data at this time, students are earning above that rate. We can see that energy and construction utilities and public safety, our students exiting those programs are earning some of the highest wages across our sectors. And then those near the bottom end are education and human development, ag, which is not a huge sector in the LA region, and then retail, hospitality, and tourism. And some of these lower wages near the bottom can be explained by some of the occupations that are trained for by these programs. So childcare workers is a great example in education and human development. The demand for that occupation is never going to go away, but unfortunately, the pay for that occupation is not necessarily up to par with a lot of the other occupations covered. So that can help explain some of the sectors that are below that average across all sectors, and presents an opportunity for us too. Now, taking all of the career education programs as a whole, we can also disaggregate the median annual earnings by race and ethnicity. So again, we have that $33,000 average across all running through the middle, and we can see that the majority of groups captured by our system are earning above that. The race and ethnic groups that are earning below that are students identifying as 2 or more races, are Black students, American Indian, Alaska Native, and Hispanic students. So again, this presents an opportunity to focus increased attention and efforts to close the equity gap for those students and raise them above that average. And now, diving even deeper, we can look at that same earnings data by race and ethnicity, but within each sector. So there are the 12 sectors overall, and I group these into 2 different groups. These ones, I'm calling the more equitable sectors, strictly because of the fact that there's less than a $10,000 earning difference between the highest earning group and the lowest earning group. So for example, with ag there on the left, you see a $6,000 difference between white workers earning the least up to Asian workers earning the most. And again, in education and health, about a $5,500 difference. ICT, digital media, about a $7,500 difference. And then retail, hospitality, and tourism, about a $6,500 difference between these groups. So there is a lot to glean from this, but I want to move to the next slide for the sake of identifying those sectors where there's a greater discrepancy in earnings by race and ethnicity. So starting off with advanced manufacturing on the left, there's about an $18,000 difference between the lowest and highest earning students leaving those programs. Advanced transportation and logistics, about $23,000. Business and entrepreneurship, $15,000. ECU, about $17,000. Global trade, $12,000. And also in life sciences and biotech, if you recall from our previous slide, this is one of the smaller sectors in terms of overall enrollments, which has increased over the time that this data has collected with new programs starting. But with the smallest number of students, only 3% of the students in that sector identify as Black, and data are suppressed when there is not a sufficient sample size in the system. So that's why you don't see any wage information there. But I wanted to highlight the public safety sector, which based on this data would appear to be the least equitable, with our students, the white students leaving programs earning almost $93,000, an amazing amount, compared to our Hispanic students leaving these programs earning $33,000. So we're talking about a whopping difference of nearly $60,000. And so the question is, what is driving this, and what can we do about it? I do know from our data that the public safety sector has the largest proportion of older students over the age of 40. Nearly 1/3 of students that enroll in those programs are much older. So as you figure, as people progress along their career, they're going to earn more. There might be greater variability in those wages. And also 2/3 of students in the public safety sector are male students. So that could be driving some of this. But this is definitely an area where we can dive deeper and look into the roots of what's going on. And so on this slide, the next 3 slides, there's a lot going on. So I'll stay on this for a minute just to explain what we have here. I'm going to go through the 3 different industry sectors identified by Shannon: construction, healthcare, and professional and business services. And on the left-hand side, we have the supply and demand analysis by the target occupation. In red, we have the number of annual job openings. And then in blue, we have the number of annual average awards from our community colleges and their related programs. So as you can see, the number of annual job openings outweighs the number of awards issued from related programs, providing opportunities, meaning there will be opportunities for our students in the labor market. So that is good. And then on the right-hand side, we have the related program outcomes. So how are students faring in the labor market that are leaving these specific programs? This salmon color is if students are reporting working in a job closely related to their field of study. This comes from our Career Technical Education Outcomes Survey administered by Santa Rosa Junior College. And it just is self-reported data asking students if they're using their education in their job. And then we have their median change in earnings in this bluish greenish color, aquamarine color, I guess. That is comparing the students' earnings before starting the program to a year after leaving the program. And then finally, whether or not students from those programs are attaining a living wage. And then at the bottom here, I have the median annual earnings for each program. So there's a lot here, but if I unpack this data, we can see that students, about 8 out of 10 from these programs are reporting working in their field of study, which is great. They're using their education. And despite these modest change in earnings, students are earning very good wages coming out of these programs, with civil and construction management technology students earning over $56,000 per year. So that's very encouraging. And then when you have the energy systems and technology program, only an 11% increase from before to after, students still earning just under $40,000. But again, if we dive deeper into this data, over half of the students in this program are under the age of 24. And so this is, for whatever reason, attracting younger students. And so they might not be as far along in their career as some of these other folks from these other programs. So that is the construction occupations. And here are the healthcare occupations. We got LVNs over here, dental assistants and respiratory therapists. You can see again the demand in red and the supply or the number of awards issued from related programs, community college programs in blue. The only one where the demand does not outweigh the supply would be respiratory therapists by a significant margin. Basically, meaning that there's probably some equilibrium in the labor market related to respiratory therapists when you compare the number of students completing to the number of job opportunities. And then again, when we look at these related program outcomes, again, we see more than 8 out of every 10 students reporting using their education, their field of study, and their job. That is typical of the health sector where programs are highly specialized. And we see a higher change in median earnings. However, we do see lower overall median earnings compared to the construction sector. Specifically related to dental assistants with a wage that falls below the living wage standard for the region. It's interesting to point out then, or I would be remiss if I didn't point out the related dental hygienist program and demand for those occupations, because we have students leaving that reporting earning over $66,000, doing very well in the labor market. And 84% of those students earning a living wage increases of 183% for that particular program. But in this particular instance, we're highlighting dental assistants being with a large amount of job openings for students. Doesn't pay quite as well as the dental hygienist occupation, but there are ample opportunities where people that have been displaced could get into this role. And then respiratory care and therapy, students are increasing their wages by 70% from what they were earning before, and less than half are earning a living wage. So again, another area for opportunity there. And then finally, we have our professional and business services occupations. So again, the supply demand analysis on the left, we have our secretary and admin assistant occupations here at the top, and then paralegal and legal assistants and graphic designers. And then the related program outcomes. So we have office technology, which is preparing our students primarily for what we say in the community college world are business information worker roles, which includes secretaries and administrative assistants. And then we have the paralegal program for our paralegals. And then these 4 programs are related to graphic designers. So there's a variety of programs that students can take into community colleges that would prepare them to be a graphic designer. The thing to note about this sector is that you notice these percentages for job closely related to field of study are lower than construction and health. So students are not necessarily finding a job in an area related to their field of study. So again, an opportunity for improvement to identify good opportunities for our students to get into. You can see that the wages for the paralegal program are strong and above that average across all programs. For secretaries and administrative assistants from this program is a little bit lower, and the programs related to graphic designers being slightly lower. And that could be due to a whole host of reasons. If our students leaving these programs or doing gig work, for example, the way that the average wages are calculated is taking the second quarter and annualizing that by multiplying it by 4. So it could be that students are not finding as much work during the second quarter versus the other quarters of the year. So I know that was a lot of information to take in for our programs, but based on this information, there are a few recommendations specifically for our community college audience. And the first one is just to continue to raise awareness about these systemic inequalities in order to combat institutional racism and advance social justice. I see it as our role as researchers to put this data in front of those who can impact policy by making changes and improvements based on the data that we uncover and present. Number 2, to identify and invest in pathways and partnerships with employers that promote diversity and inclusion. So That is not to say that that is not happening, because in our region, we have the Strong Workforce Program and our regional directors for employer engagement that are mentioned earlier that have been hard at work at this. There's other strong workforce programs focused on career pathways and partnerships, job placement and employment success. And we have a lot of sector-based initiatives, some in biotech, retail, hospitality and tourism, health, and some even in emerging fields like data science. In LA County alone, there was just over 25 million allocated to K-12 partnerships and another just under 13 million allocated for community colleges towards this work in 2021. So this is ongoing, and there's great work being done to this end. And then number three, ongoing improvement of tracking student employment outcomes. So this is sort of a wish list, because make no mistake about it, our launch board is one of the best dashboards in the nation for tracking student employment outcomes. But there are some things that could be improved in terms of, the data can be disaggregated by age, race, gender, but not specifically by which occupation students are working in. We have some of that information from some of our surveys, but we can't capture all of our students in that way. And also knowing which employers are hiring our students most frequently is great information that we could highlight in there. So again, when I think back 10 years, the launch board was, not a thing, and now it's come, and there's with every release, it's been improved. So that is exciting news. So I hope that this was important information for you, and I will turn it back over to Claire. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. And it is my extreme pleasure to introduce our next panel, who will be sort of closing out the session and bringing a lot more life into some of those recommendations. We have Catherine Perez, the city's leader for Southern California at Arup, and Lemaire Walker, the co-founder and chief design officer at Valence Enterprises, both of whom are doing just a ton of work in this area and have been for a long time. They have some great insights for us of things that they've been doing, and I'm just really excited for you to hear from them. I'm excited to just launch the panel. I don't have much else to say about it, but it's going to be moderated by Jessica Kukim, the Vice President of Economic and Workforce Development at the LAEDC. So with that, I will pass it over so that we can hear from them for as much time as possible. Thank you. Take it away, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Claire. Just coming off of all of that data, first and foremost, thank you to our Institute for Applied Economics and the Center of Excellence for doing that research and giving us the data and an honest look into it. And I am just so appreciative of our region's 19 community colleges for funding and prioritizing this type of research so that we can, when I saw those numbers on wages and by race, we can close and start to work and address issues. But we also know as a system, we need employers at the table, and we absolutely need to work with them to strengthen the pathways to employment, to talk about attraction and retention of talent here in our region. And so it's a thrill to have Catherine and Lemaire join the conversation with me today. They come with a great passion for Los Angeles, a great passion for diversity, and are leading initiatives here in the region to address some of these issues. And so I wanted to start first with, historically, what have you seen in your industries with regard to racial and ethnic diversity? And what changes have you seen this past year? Why is awareness of this so important? Maybe Catherine, if we could start with you.
Sure. Can you hear me okay? I wasn't able to test my pods. Cool. It's good to see you, Jessica, and thank you to everyone for putting this conversation together. I was able to listen to Luke's presentation and was starkly reminded how important these issues are for the region. But to your question specifically, I think last year was a real awakening for those, and I'm particularly speaking about the AEC community, the architectural engineering and consulting construction industries. There was a real awareness as to how important it is to have a diverse kind of membership of people across the organization, leadership to middle management to the kind of grads that come in. And so at Arup, we took a very hard look at ourselves, and we realized that we weren't where we wanted to be. And we certainly weren't reflecting the kind of rich diversity of the region that we're working in Los Angeles. So we've made some important steps, but I got to tell you, and I think Lemire will echo this, is that we've got a lot of work to do, because there is a huge gap, particularly in the representation of diversity, gender, identification in the field of engineering and architecture.
Thank you. Lemire, what about you?
Yeah, it's fantastic to be here with you all. And yeah, I started my career actually as an architect. And you know, the points that Catherine just made are still painfully true to this day. And as I made my transition during grad school over to the media and innovation economy, some similar pains were there. I think I've seen it over the last, like, I would say decade or so, starts to improve, particularly because a lot more of the possibilities have been, frankly, communicated, and the storytelling around what it's like to work in a startup, what it's like to work in an innovation-based company, have gotten that much more popular for people to kind of understand their capabilities within it. And I think with Valence, you know, we were founded around this whole, you know, kind of evolution that we're seeing society and the work world go towards. And, you know, a lot of what we saw at the beginning of last year was just really heartwarming in terms of the outreach that we got from companies of all types, but particularly the ones that were in the venture-backed space and the private equity spaces, who were and continue to be completely committed to really evolving their companies, their cultures, and frankly, kind of letting more people know that these things are really transformative in terms of what they can do for generational wealth. And one of the key connectors there, I think we'll be touching on, which is the ability to kind of actually have access to the connectivity to even know about these things, right? The broadband access continues to be an issue here in LA. So this is one of the things that we're looking to really kind of help tackle as well.
Thanks. You know, as a business, investing in meaningful and lasting change includes both recruitment and retention. You know, Catherine, I know you've done incredible work with recruitment strategies, creating different pipelines, increasing exposure of careers. Can you share what that's looked like for you and why it's so critical?
You know, Jessica, it has been a challenge. The recruitment is a challenge for us because we are finding that we are competing in a very the market is incredibly competitive. So we are up against tech companies and startups that are promising kind of different kinds of opportunities. We are trying to reflect and change like the culture of the company that we want to be in terms of our social mindedness, our commitment to the environment and climate change, trying to be, you know, show these young professionals coming out of the schools, coming out of the local universities, that there's an opportunity for them. And what we're realizing is we need to dig deeper than that. We actually are partnering, and to Luke's presentation, we're partnering with local organizations such as DIY Girls in San Fernando Valley, Careers by Design in LA, ACE Mentoring. We are reaching into kind of environments where the students may not have exposure to engineers or architects or acoustic, professionals, and we're hoping to bring exposure of those fields to these young folks who haven't had the opportunity. And so for us, it's about recruiting even earlier in the kind of environment that we're facing right now. Now we're also dealing with a retention issue, and I was just on the phone right now with our America's leader, and we're really struggling on the retention issue because of the work from home situation. People have relocated and they're not in Los Angeles anymore. They're in Denver or Seattle or the woods, but they're not here, and they don't want to, so we're competing with location. And it is one of the things that we are trying to think about, how we can provide the opportunities to say, you know, you're in Los Angeles and look at this. We've got the Olympics, we've got FIFA, we've got all this amazing stuff. And wouldn't you want to be part of that? Wouldn't you want to be part of the experience? And so it's definitely a challenge, but I know that we are working all different levels to try and get to those younger professionals to recruit them into the company.
That's wonderful. I love that. I love going into the community, going where they are and partnering. It's so critical to inspiring folks to pursue these careers instead of dumping information, but really coming to them. And so I think that's wonderful. Lemire, we've discussed the friction that occurs when changing the cultural DNA of a company. Can you share what that means, particularly for retention and how to navigate it?
Yeah, really great topic. I'm very passionate about it because as a manager, I spent several years within a professional services firm, doing all I could to really do the kind of groundwork for an organization and frankly, a lot of companies that we were creating to have that more nimble, innovative spirit that would address the issues of the day and particularly the issues of the talent. And so a lot of what we've been doing at Valence is trying to find ways that the kind of higher end talent categories, whether it's boards or it's the actual kind of C-suite down to the director level, they actually feel like there's going to be an investment opportunity for them personally to kind of invest their own calories and infrastructure around this company and have it be reciprocated in how that company invests back in them. And that culture that they're building is going to be something that's going to be attractive and authentic. And so the companies and the entities, schools, whatever they might be, having them all be prepared for that evolution that they're ready to go through, because bringing the talent in is a tremendous amount of effort, and watching it walk out or just dislocate and disassociate is something you really don't want to have happen. And so we've been doing a lot of investment around building things that help with things like the ERGs and the infrastructure around that across companies and across institutions. So whether it's an alumni group or it's an industry association, we're trying to set up that level of connectivity so people don't feel like they're isolated while they're at frankly different arenas. But that level of culture is something that I think has to be invested in consistently and frankly enabled by people being able to have entrepreneurial resources to install it wherever they are.
Jessica, can I add something to what Lemire said? We actually went back to our webpage. We went through it and identified, we brought an external party in to basically create gender neutral platforming so that when people came to our website, it wasn't kind of speaking to a certain, profile, and also to make sure that it was culturally mindful about the kind of terminology so that somebody coming to the website, which we're a global company, could be a little bit intimidating, but if you come and you experience it, that's your first exposure in some cases. And so we, from the ground up, we've really kind of revamped. And to my colleagues that have this similar issue, I would ask that you kind of look at your verbiage, look at how you're communicating, and making sure that that is accessible to various folks who use different terminology, and to make sure that people feel welcome from the very beginning of the experience with the firm.
Completely agree. I mean, that extends to how we take labor market information and share that out, to course descriptions, how we describe our schools and programs, to then companies and the website. Absolutely. The way we engage with work continues to change, as well as our roles of and within companies. We have industry, philanthropy, educators, and others on this call. What should we be aware of, and how can we embrace these changes? So in other words, how can we ensure LA is a leader in creating a more equitable economy and ensures the workforce across all of our industries and roles reflect the exceptional diversity of our region, and especially as we looked at some of the data for entry-level positions?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll go very quickly, Lemire, just very quickly. It was it's very important to us that we work in collaboration with the neighborhoods that we're working in. So it's not just about building bridges or, redoing a civic center. It's about really getting into the communities. And so we have a whole list of organizations that we partner with on a nonprofit base, on a pro bono basis. These nonprofits are working very close to the ground. So for us, it is about connecting the passion of our members into the neighborhoods that they live in. And what we were missing was, we felt like we were missing that connective tissue, and that, going to work was what you did during the day, and then you'd come home and you'd participate in your faith effort or your educational effort or your sports effort. And we decided to marry those. So we have worked hard to ask our 300 members in our LA office, what would you like for us to do? Is it an LA River cleanup? Is it something in San Pedro? Is it something on the coast? Is it something in the San Gabriel Valley? Where should we be putting our time and effort and bringing that to the awareness of all of our members? So we've really tried to kind of, again, have people bring their full selves, frankly, to work, and to feel that they should be feeling that we are reflecting what they care about, as well as the work that we're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, just to kind of extend on that, that's really powerful. And I would say my offer would be to embrace the fact that we're a storytelling city, and to tell these stories of all the work that you guys are putting in around these, in very authentic ways, around these issues, right? Like Catherine just kind of explaining the initiatives that she's driving, being able to kind of let people see these things is very critical. And whether it's kind of the language and the semantics and all the sophisticated layers of how you do that, there's probably people on your team that have these horizontal capacities that can go in and help drive these issues. The more that you can embrace the talent that's there and all their different facets, I think the better that we'll see kind of the evolution of our workforce over the very near future in a very powerful way. And lastly, that I think that the ability for entrepreneurship around these issues, right, is really critical. That we can literally have leaders that embrace their teams and the individuals within the teams to go out and drive some initiatives and to celebrate that and to invest in that. So I think we're going to have some really great breakout kind of communications around these things that are happening. We're seeing it already with our partners. So I'm really optimistic about where we're headed.
It's wonderful. And, for folks, you saw a poll come out. We also want to know how you would like to get involved. I can't thank you both enough. I mean, Arip and Valence and both of you have been so supportive of our community colleges, participating in regional program advisories, lending your expertise to our team and to the community colleges. And that's absolutely what CCW does. It's the data. Absolutely. We want to be driven by it. We want to take that, but we want to do something with it. And we know that employers are part of the solution. We know philanthropy. We know other industry partners. Absolutely, our students, our faculty at our community colleges, our leadership. If in LA we're going to really make a dent and really make sure that and support our systems to make the changes, to be demand driven, to be agile, to respond to our communities, we need to do it together. And so I really appreciate everyone's time to come and have this conversation today. It's so critical right now, but also hopefully into the future as we continue to track these things, as we continue to have conversations. CCW will continue to have our regional program advisories in the next few months, where we bring employers to the same table with our educators to talk about competencies, entry level points, discuss issues as they come up. And so I can't thank the community colleges enough for engaging and leading this here in our region. And again, Catherine and Lemaire, thank you so much for joining us today. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Richard to close us out.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you to Catherine and Lemaire for your commitment and your partnership and the shared vision that you have with us. You demonstrate and represent why this report matters, why the investment and commitment to engaging employers matters, and why the partnership and co-investment of employers with community colleges matters. This report and your work is not theoretical. You walk the walk, You just don't talk the talk. This is an example of the level of engagement that we've had with employers and that LAEDC has led on behalf of the community colleges with employers and faculty over this last 5 years, and especially this last year. I think that we're really excited about the interest from so many of you about how to continue this work and why it matters. Before closing, I do want to point out that I actually have two mentees who have participated in today's call. Edwin Conte, a former East LA College student, now at UC Berkeley, and Jonathan Ordonez, who's a current student at East LA College, who were so interested in the work that I do and joined today's call to see the commitment you all have to their futures. And I want to recognize the CCW leadership and vision of Patricia Ramos at Santa Monica College, Virginia Rapp, who chairs the advisory council at El Camino College, Jennifer Galbraith at Mount San Antonio College, Mercy Yanez at LA Harbor College, Freddie Salcedo at Glendale College, Lionel Wiggins, who I mentioned earlier from Compton College, and all of our advisory council members. You're so important to the work we do. I want to recognize the regional directors for employer engagement who have partnered with us, Ozzy Lopez, Judy Fox, Charlotte Augustine, Ruth Emanuel, Katie Mishler. We appreciate all that you've done. And I want to thank Luke and Shannon for the tremendous work that you've put into this report. We share the vision of equity and a more widely shared prosperity, and CCW represents that. And we will continue to do this work over the next at least 6 months. Next semester, we will be focused on the blue economy and introducing colleges to the partnership that is being forged with LAEDC around an emerging blue economy in our region and the value that it represents to all 19 colleges in the region, not just those along the coast. We'll also, as Jessica said, continue to host regional program advisory meetings to connect colleges with employers and to continue to have discussions like we had today that have been really valuable to faculty and to students, and to continue to bridge the gaps, create new opportunities, strengthen the partnerships, and align regional collaboration. And so we look forward to working with all of you as we explore the opportunities to continue this work and to grow this work. Please visit our website, competitiveworkforce.la, for this report and all of our 19 reports that we have published over this last year that we know are valuable to employers, that we know are valuable to faculty, to students, to the workforce boards who have joined us, Supervisor Kuehl's office, Deputy Patty Castellanos, who's joined us. We want to thank all of you, and we look forward to your continued partnership. Let's continue to work together to ensure that our students and that our residents have not just good opportunities, but great opportunities in our very dynamic economy. So thank you again to the team at LAEDC. It's been an invaluable partnership, and we look forward to what's to come for the rest of the year. Thank you all.